So I'm just gonna do the review like this today, you guys. I hope you don't mind looking at this shirt. Cheerio, everybody. Along with the pink shorts as well as the bony old knees here. Oh, God, that's a pain on the back. I haven't been like that. I feel like I'm gonna be a hunchback having to do this. I feel like I'm trying to be too cool if I do this too. Like, hey guys, what's up? It's your boy. It's Ashton Kutcher, punked, bro. We're about to get Charlie Sheen on the show, yo. Laughing at my own terrible non-jokes. That's just delightful, ain't it? All right, what are we talking about? Enola Holmes. I watched this movie last night, Enola Holmes. I wanted to quickly talk about it. What did I think about it? Well, I was genuinely surprised by it, and that's why I wanted to do a solo review on it. I like doing solo reviews for newer movies, you know, obviously clickbait. Yeah. Put the poster up for it and everything to hide my beautiful shirt from people, my beautiful pink trousers here as well. And my, got them muscles going. Yeah. I should have done some push-ups before this. Pump that iron, baby. But yeah, today we're talking about a kids movie, and I'm talking about and I'm wearing the opposite of a kid-related friendly shirt or whatever. But let's continue on, shall we? At least these guys are being friendly to each other for a change, right? Enola Holmes. This was a lot of fun. I was not expecting much from this movie at all. I honestly thought for the first half hour that this movie was going to be terrible. I'm looking at it like, okay, I like the actors here. I like Millie Bobby Brown as this title character. My boy Henry Cavill. You know, well, one of these days I could totally see this guy being knighted by the Queen or something. I don't know why, but as soon as I said his name there, Henry Cavill, I just imagine him being Sir Henry Cavill in the future. If I'm right about that, you saw it here first, you guys. If Henry Cavill becomes a Sir or gets knighted in the future, you heard it from me first. But I love him as Sherlock. Though I wanted to bring up one guy who really surprised me. I've seen this fella in movies before. His name is Sam Claflin. He plays Mycroft Holmes in this, Sherlock's brother. I was surprised not to see Dr. Watson, like Sherlock's partner, obviously, throughout the novels and whatnot. I was surprised not to see Watson in this film, but I reckon they're saving that for a future sequel. I thought they were going to have something at the end involving Watson, but to my surprise, no. It was just Sherlock, Mycroft, and it just dealt with the Holmes as a family, which was great because I genuinely liked the family dynamic in this movie. I liked Helena Bonham Carter as Mrs. Holmes, but like I said, Sam Claflin, though, really stole the show for me. I don't notice a lot of people mentioning him here, at least in the reviews that I'm scrolling through here on Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, everybody's focused on Millie Bobby Brown and Henry Cavill because obviously, you know, if you're talking about a Sherlock Holmes movie, you're going to focus on Sherlock as well as, you know, in this case, it's about Enola. Her name backwards is Alone. Spoiler for the movie. Because, when I heard the title for this movie, I'm like, Enola? Like, is that a real name? I've never heard of that before, but it's like a play on words, I guess, backwards. God, I'm mind boggled to try and think of what the hell the word is for that. They say it a bunch of times in this movie because they have these like messages that they share to each other through newspapers and such, and it's just like, what do they call that? Blanking on it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this film. The standout to me was Sam Claflin as Mycroft. Even though the writing for his character is a bit generic, in my opinion, like I've seen this character 1,000 times, I feel like, at least in film, or at least 100. I'm exaggerating with 1,000. But I've seen this character plenty of times in movies like this, where it's like the jerk off brother or whatever, who's just the biggest. He's like arguably the biggest antagonist this movie has. Other than this one guy, I recognize the actor. He's in Game of Thrones. He's the guy that betrays the Night's Watch captain in Game of Thrones. I don't know the actor's name, but he's got that face that he's got that unfortunate sort of face that he's just probably always going to be cast as a villain in everything he's in. I don't know the poor guy's name, but he's got one of those faces that it's like, that guy will always and forever get a role playing a villain in this movie. And there's some pretty intense scenes. I was surprised. I thought this movie was going to be PG, just PG rated. But it's rated PG-13, which kind of surprises me because the movie starts off, it's got this playful tone about it. I really love the cinematography here. I love the color palette. I love the look of this film. Initially, I wasn't really sold on this film because when it starts off, they're doing like the credits, and they're literally doing these quick cut credits. So they say like legendary pictures, and then it's like 1 second title card, and then cut to a quick 1 second establishing shot of like some building, and then like a second later cut to another title card, and I was just like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Is this film for like ADD kids or something like that? Because it's obviously aimed at a kid demographic. I don't really see a lot of adults being interested in this sort of thing, but I was obviously interested in seeing Henry Cavill play Sherlock, and he didn't let me down. In fact, I'd really love to see a sequel to this film. I'd love to see them explore these characters more and get these actors back in these roles. I think Millie Bobby Brown, obviously I'm saying Sam Claflin as Mycroft stole the show for me, but Millie Bobby Brown really is the one that makes this film work, for sure. Because she literally has to carry this whole damn movie on her shoulders, basically. She's the lead actress here. She does a brilliant job. She has to do this really difficult thing where she has to be likable, and she has to talk to the camera a lot, like I'm doing here. She has to, like Ferris Bueller and Deadpool sort of thing, breaking of the fourth wall. There's a ton of that in the movie, almost too much to a certain extent, but I felt like once we got past the first half hour or so, it really started to grow on me, and I really started to like her talking to the camera. At first I'm like, this is obnoxious, and this is just trying way too hard to be hip and to be cool or whatever. And I can see a lot of people disliking this movie for that reason in particular, the fact that it seems to be trying too hard to be funny. But eventually I did find those talking to the camera bits with Millie Bobby Brown extraordinarily funny. I actually would have liked to have seen Sherlock Holmes have that sort of thing as well, where he suddenly turned to the camera and started talking to the audience. Though that never happens, I would have really liked to have seen that. I thought that would have been cool, because none of the other characters do it except for her, because she's basically narrating this story by talking to the camera like I am here. And it's cool. It grew on me after a while, and I was shocked at genuinely how much I enjoyed this film, because I cannot stress enough, the first half hour was really testing my patience in some regards. They introduced this kid. Obviously you can tell from the get-go, even before you see him on screen. You see his uncle and his mother or whatever, looking for him outside this train, and it's obviously you know what's going to happen. I called it a mile away what was going to happen, how he was going to be introduced into the plot. And if you can't predict how he's going to show up in the scene, then I don't know. Maybe I've watched too many movies at this point. I genuinely don't know. But I was like, okay, he's going to be introduced like this, right? And surely enough, yes. Um, I'm trying to think of something to compare this to, but I really don't know what I would compare this to, in all honesty. I have like a bunch of forgettable kids movies like this going by in my mind, and they all sort of blend together. And quite honestly, this is an initial reaction from me. This might be one of those movies that I forget about in a week or two, but I'm still extraordinarily happy that I watched it, because like I said previously, I think the cinematography, the landscapes, the environments, the way it's all put together. I mean, it's a very beautiful, attractive looking film. And I think it's worth seeing for that alone, quite frankly. I think it's a very delightful film on the eyes, for sure. And it's got a wonderful cast here. Actually, I was going to say it reminded me of Harry Potter because of that train sequence, but also because Fiona Shaw is in it as well. She plays like Mrs. Dursley in those Harry Potter movies, like Harry's like a mean aunt or whatever the hell she is. I guess she's his aunt in those movies. She plays an equally vile sort of character in this. Not vile to the extent that she is in those movies, I'd say, because like at first she's like way over the top with like how much of a just like she's so vile when you first see her, and I was almost rolling my eyes like, really, come on, like you gotta make her this sort of character again. Like, can you do something with her? Can you do something to give her some depth? And thankfully, once we're done with that initial first half hour of this movie, once we get to sit down with these characters and actually they have conversations with one another, that's where this movie's at its finest. I'm like struggling to find the words up there in my brain, but this movie's at its finest when these characters get to sit down with one another and just talk. Like there's this nice scene with Millie Bobby Brown and Fiona Shaw, like after their initial introduction, like around the halfway point of the movie, they're reintroduced to each other, and they have this nice little scene in her dorm, like and they're talking about like Enola's mother, and I just thought it was a nice little way of adding a bit more depth to this character, rather than just she's this mean old shrew that just wants to whip this girl and mold her into being a proper lady or whatever. And I was genuinely surprised, because the marketing of this movie, at least from what I've gathered other people, I only watched the initial trailer for this, and I liked that, and that kind of sold me on wanting to see this. But from what I gathered from a few of the YouTubers that I saw, like a lot of them were claiming that Netflix was advertising this as some anti-man feminist propaganda or whatever, and while there's a bit of that in this movie, I think people would be extremely ridiculous to say that this is a anti-man movie, because Sherlock Holmes is still Sherlock Holmes in this movie. He's still the genius detective that we all know him as. And they never stop to go like, no, Enola's better because she's younger and she's a girl. Like they never stop to do that. So I don't know what the hell Netflix is doing with how they're marketing this film, because I feel like a lot of people would probably hate on this movie automatically if they are marketing it in that manner. I haven't looked up many of the marketing materials myself. Like I said, I just watched the initial trailer for this movie, and I liked it. So I don't know if maybe they did some stupid TV spot or something stupid where they're saying Enola's who needs Sherlock when you got Enola or something stupid. It's like, no, the movie's not about that. It's like a coming of age story about this kid, and like I alluded to before, initially, I was like, oh no, they're gonna introduce some stupid forced love story plot in this, and I won't lie, at first I was really annoyed by it. I'm like, why does this have to be happening? I don't want to see some stupid love story. I don't want to watch Stranger Things in the 1890s, whenever the hell this takes place. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather just watch this girl solve a mystery. But the further it goes along, the more I started to like this kid. You know, I like their relationship. And the same thing goes for with what I was saying about Fiona Shaw's character. You know, the more these characters have time to speak with one another, the more depth they get. I'm really surprised at how solid the writing for this is. Like, it's written by this lady on here called Nancy Springer. And yeah, she's done a marvelous job with this script. I think this script is a lot more clever than some people may give it credit for. Personally, I didn't see the twist of the movie coming. I couldn't... I thought it was going to go one way. I thought, you know, like they present, you know, the red herring. Obviously, you got your red herring character. And I was going, okay, that's going to be who it is, right? But then it's like, no, it's somebody else. And it's like, oh, okay, how did I not see that coming? I've seen enough of these mystery type movies. I should have been able to tell that from a mile away. But hey, it's not clever like something like Knives Out, where that movie was so damn clever. It like revealed its hand to you almost immediately, only to twist it around by the end of that movie to subvert our expectations. The wonderful Ryan Johnson. that expectation subverter. Gotta love that guy. Slurpy slurp. Want some coffee, Audrey? No? She's having none of it. She's literally turned away from me like that and has her eyes closed, and she's just like, I'm sick and tired of you making these stupid videos, John. When are you going to get a job? When are you going to get a real job? I can't get a job, Audrey. It's COVID season. We're all supposed to stay inside, remember? We're all supposed to be afraid of talking to people, you know? 6 feet apart, guys. 6 feet apart. Man, oh man. Ah, that's damn good coffee. Damn good coffee. And this was a damn good movie. I was really impressed about this, you guys. I don't know what more to say about it that I already have. I always feel like I'm missing something whenever I talk about these sort of things. But I genuinely, thoroughly enjoyed this film. And surprisingly, it got to me on an emotional level at certain points too. It didn't make me like literally bawl my eyes out, but I felt like I felt myself getting a bit teary-eyed at certain points through this movie. Like, in particular, thanks to Millie Bobby Brown's terrific performance here. I think she's marvelous in this movie. And genuinely, I am wholehearted in saying that I genuinely would love to see a sequel to this movie. I'd love to see 2 sequels to this movie. I'd love them to make this into a trilogy. I'd be really curious, though, because obviously if they do make a sequel, obviously we'd have Dr. Watson involved in the plot in some way. Obviously they'd want to add him in as a character. If not, that would be kind of weird if they didn't go with that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they throw in one of Sherlock's major villains. What is his name? Moriarty. I wouldn't be surprised if Moriarty is the villain in the next film, and maybe he kidnaps Sherlock, and Enola's got to team up with Dr. Watson in order to get Sherlock back, or some sort of cool plot like that, and then you can have some intriguing sequences with Sherlock and what did I say? He's got a similar name to Mycroft. I just said it. Moriarty, yeah. Moriarty, yeah, because that could be cool. I'd be curious to see who they'd want to cast as those two characters, Watson and Moriarty. And yeah, I'm curious to see the future of this, and I hope this film is successful, and I think it will be successful. I don't see why it wouldn't be, because this is the type of movie that people could really watch in these trying times right now. I mean, it's fun, it's delightful, it has just enough intensity to make you to put you on the edge of your seat. Like, I was genuinely surprised. A couple of sequences in this had me literally sitting upright and going, whoa, like I'm worried about the safety of these kids. Like, I feel tension through these scenes, and I love it when movies can do that. So kudos to the director here, Harry Bradbeer, and all the producers, the writer, Nancy Springer. I'm trying to think of complaints that I have with this movie, and I honestly don't have many complaints at all with this movie. Other than the fact that maybe it's a bit too long, maybe, but I thought it was fast-paced enough to sort of make me not realize that it's a 2-hour movie. It felt more like a hour and a half, so I was kind of surprised to see that it was 2 hours. But I won't lie, some scenes, like maybe the first half hour or so, do run a bit long, and maybe the editing is a bit too frenetic as well for this type of film, like, because they always cut back to these flashbacks with Helena Bonham Carter, and I know she's great in this movie, but after a while I was just like, couldn't you have just shown us these sequences in one, like, long sequence, like one long prologue sequence, rather than in flashbacks? Because, like, it got in the way of certain scenes sometime. Like, there's this fight scene that happens with the Game of Thrones guy I was talking about, between him and Millie Bobby Brown's character, and they kept cutting back to scenes with her and Helena Bonham Carter, and I'm just like, what are you doing here? I want to see this fight in full. I don't want to keep cutting back to flashbacks, because that gives me the impression that she's going to make it out of this okay. You know, it kind of loses its tension in a way by cutting back to those scenes, because it sort of lets you know, like, oh, she's got the training. Whereas, like, if you showed us this at the beginning in one steady sequence, like, I don't know, maybe it would have had more, you know, oomph to it. And what else? I mean, legitimately, I don't have major flaws with this film at all. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining. Maybe a bit cliche in certain parts, but I'm fine with that, because, you know, every story's been told throughout history. It's kind of hard to be original, especially with something like Sherlock Holmes nowadays. But for what it is, you know, for what it tries to be, you know, obviously it's more in line with being a kids' movie. It does a marvelous job. I genuinely think kids would really love this movie, probably more than I would. Probably more than I did. And, yeah. What more can I say? If I was to rate this film, I think I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. You know, I was thinking about giving it... I was thinking about giving it maybe a 9 out of 10, but I'm like, nah, that's a bit too high. That's a bit too high, because, like I was saying to another, like, potential criticism of mine with this film is that it feels like one of those movies that I might forget about in a matter of weeks. I don't know. I'll have to wait till then to find out, but honestly, with the amount of movies being released now, I don't know if this is going to be up there in regards to the best movies that I've seen this year. It's certainly not my favorite kids movie of this year either. For that, I'd still say Sonic the Hedgehog is by far my favorite kids movie that I saw this year. I can't stress enough, I genuinely loved Sonic the Hedgehog. I can't believe how much that movie clicked with me. I just absolutely loved that movie. The more I think about that movie, the more I love it, even with all the product placement for Olive Garden and all that. The fact that it stays so clearly in my mind, especially after just one viewing, really tells me something about its quality, at least in my opinion. I know some people will probably be like, oh, you're crazy for thinking it's that good, but I'm like, to each their own. Anyhow, you guys, go watch Enola Holmes, especially if you got kids to show it to. I think they'd really get a kick out of it. And yeah, it's just a really nice movie. So I really don't understand some of the I guess there's backlash against it because of the marketing that the dummies over at Netflix are doing for it. But don't believe the marketing in regards to the anti-man message that Netflix is trying to push with this, because it's not that at all. Henry Cavill is terrific here as Sherlock. He's not belittled in any way. They don't belittle the Sherlock Holmes character in any way, at least from what I could tell. Like judge for yourself. Like, don't believe a dummy like me for everything. I can be wrong sometimes, but from what I saw and for my money, this was just a genuinely charming movie, and I don't understand how people could possibly be upset over something like this. I really don't understand how anybody could be upset about this at all, quite frankly. Anyhow, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope if you watched Enola Holmes, I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did, if not more. And if not, let me know. Let me know why I'm wrong. Why I'm wrong for liking Enola Holmes. Anyhow, you guys, thank you for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.